got 55 seconds to get in here.
Yeah.
Tom,
I'm coming already.
if you don't get back in here,
I heard you the first time.
we're starting without you.
Just open the back door.
Why are you always late?
45 seconds is plenty of time. I'm coming.
Every day the same thing.
Look out, coming through.
We've got a show to do here.
It's gonna be close.
It's time to do.
Hell yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special episode of the Archival Discourses. Tonight we'll be discussing millennial culture, and I hope you enjoyed that incredibly nostalgic intro I put together. Brings back so much childhood memories, and I'm very lucky to be joined for the first time on this channel from Melon and Mikeofpol. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Doing good, man. That was a real hell yeah moment. Man, I'm gonna be stuck in a nostalgia trip like so hard. They're gonna have to put me in a coma to get me out of this nostalgia trip. That's great.
Yeah, I haven't seen that for like at least over a decade, man. That's the Toonami intro, right? Something like that? From Cartoon
That's
Network.
one of them, yeah.
Dude, I miss it. We can't be nostalgic, but I miss it, man.
Yes, I included the Batman Beyond one because that was a show I didn't really watch. The intro's Kino, and I did it to please Hunger there. So, because if anything, the cartoons at that time had great intros and aesthetics. So, fortunately, something I think we've kind of lost in subsequent years.
Oh yeah, American animation that has fallen. You know, it's I don't know. Like I've got a young niece, so I kind of have to keep a finger on the pulse of these things, just because you know I got to take my niece to movies and stuff and be a good uncle. And man, animation has fallen in all domains. You know, it's kind of no wonder there's kind of been a flight towards Japanese animation. You know, even in the youngest generation right now, where like my niece is like a huge fan of like Hatsune Miku and stuff like that. It's like there's nothing like the Batman animated series. Like there's multiple different Batman animated movies that are just like, you know, were amazing, and the West can no longer produce anything like that.
No, it's like a lost art at this point, man.
No, and even with I think a lot of Japanese stuff, I would say a lot of the modern anime they make, the animations weren't as good as the late 90s, 80s, or even the early 2000s. I think they've definitely declined a bit as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true as well. I mean, I guess there's like a time lag there, and so that's why, you know, everyone's coping, holding on. It's like, you know, animated anything, in terms of a fandom, you know, it's about to all be gone. We're halfway down the slippery slope in total massification, slopification, however you want to describe it. You know, it's all going to be further degradations of lowest common denominator from here on out. I mean, we've all kind of predicted this or seen the trend, so it's not at all surprising that it's gone worldwide.
No, certainly, and it's probably worth just going over, you know, what exactly does it mean to be millennial, and I think the main thing that, because as far as I understand, All three of us are millennials, aren't we? Or have I got that wrong?
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
barely made the cut. I think
Yeah.
Mike's pretty close to me. Yep.
Yeah, we both barely made the cut, but still firmly in. I guess some of these landmark attachments that kind of like form the millennial psyche are through media. Specifically, it is probably the first generation that is wholly their identity is wholly informed by media, and that's kind of like an interesting effect. Interesting effect, me being, I guess this weird guy that's kind of a Baudrillard scholar. You can see the ramifications of that, of modernity being the time of mass media. When that gets fully internalized in a generation, like the first people we saw that happen to were millennials, and we're all victims of like this crime of entertainment.
Certainly, and because in terms of the millennial generation, I actually feel there seems to be a lot of disagreement as to where you start and end it, because the most conventional definition I've seen is sort of 80/81 to 96. There's a couple of outliers. There's a wider one I've seen, which is like 80 to 20, so the last 20 years of the 20th century. But there's a weirder one I've seen where I saw one that was arguing it's like 1977 to 95, and I'm like, okay, I guess you're kind of including, the Zennials in that one, but to cut it off 95 seems a bit premature. And what were your guys' thoughts?
I'd like to be a zillennial. I would desperately try to distance myself from being a millennial. The reason why I think there is even a dispute in the cutoff range at the end of the range is because the millennials had a bit of a bifurcated that they essentially had two adolescent phases, if this makes sense, and it's not contiguous across the entire population of millennials. So you have what I'll call the normal extension of adolescent phases, which is having a normal one. These are the type of millennials that grew up into like Joe Rogan, sports bets, sports ball, kind of like normal-ish folk. But their adolescent phases were extended because of, their identity being completely attached attached to media. So this would also include like Disney Americans as well, or Disney adults. On the other side, you had an adolescent phase for people who want, like me and probably Melon, who want to identify more as zillennial because they got online extremely early. So like for me, my father ran a computer repair side hustle whenever I was like really young to make some spare cash. And he would go to people's houses and work on their computer and, add another stick of DDR2 RAM and stuff. So there was a bunch of computer parts laying around the house, and I just went, "Hey, Dad, can I borrow a bunch of sticks of RAM?" And built my own computer inside of like an old like EPC case. Whenever I was like 10 or 9 or 10 or something like that. And so this bifurcation into two different adolescent phases means that some people, stayed in the normal one. Some people went all online, and some people kind of was a normal one enjoyer, and then also got the adolescent phase of coming online later in life, maybe in late high school. So, you end up kind of like instilling a feedback loop of several different instances of extending adolescence well into adulthood. And so I think that's the reason why there's a disagreement about the end stage, the end of the millennial range, is because, well, some people feel like they're younger because they doubled up on like adolescent phases through the internet. They got like a second dose. So I don't know. It's that's kind of my preamble thoughts on it. I don't know if you guys agree.
And just to be clear for you guys listening in chat, every millennial is now over 30. Just so you know, every single one. So no more LARPing. We're not young. We're adults, and we have been for a long time. Okay, you get it? You get it, chat?
Yeah, so we just live in like an endless childhood. Sadly, not the case. And we've got several memes and clips we're going to go through tonight. And there's one that Melon's kindly shared. This is to do with because in 1985 the Walt Disney Classics Collection was released on VHS, and so it's something, Melon, you think had an impact on a lot of young millennials. So we've got a clip we're just going to play.
Remember, Pinocchio, be a good boy, and always let your conscience be your guide. Goodbye, Malay.
Now, this was I'm sure some of you Jordan Peterson enjoyers have heard more than enough about the animated Pinocchio, but this was made in 1940, as far as I'm aware. And I don't know about you guys, but this is the earliest memory I have of the word conscience. And I don't see that word very often anymore. This was like an echo of an earlier time, and in a good way.
Yeah,
sorry,
no. Oh, no, I was going to say, yeah, there's, it's interesting because, my youngest years I can remember it was all sat down in front of the VHS, in front of, classic animated films, just like this, and then, as you get a little bit older, it's into like Bill Nye the Science Guy stuff, or, Power Rangers, and then Saturday morning cartoons. But most of us, I think, grew up with the VHS classics, and that's like probably the earliest formative years. But very little of it is actually retained in terms of like the sort of moral code that most of these classics were trying to kind of instill in a younger generation when they were actually made, which is interesting. How most of that has gone into the garbage disposal in terms of the popular subconscious.
No, certainly. And there's something very timeless about these old cartoons. And just to give a British perspective on children's entertainment, one difference between the two countries, Britain and America, in respect to the children's entertainment, is that I think a lot of British children's entertainment seems very aimed at very young children, and then there's not really very much aimed at adolescents, I would say. Well, if there is, it's live action stuff and not really anything cartoons, whereas the American sphere seems a lot more stronger focus on animation. I don't know whether that's any influence from Japan, with things like anime. But one thing I will say is about a lot of the these sort of older British cartoons or children's shows. A lot of them are sort of older, from like the things like my parents would have watched when they were children, and a lot of them have a very kind of timeless quality to them.
Yeah, it's that trend where there's greater degradation of age ranges for children's entertainment has accelerated in the American media market, to the point where I'm sure that some of these network executives, probably chart down kind of like a game plan for what a kid watches, month to month, probably in 6-month spans, like the entire media diet, of a child from like earliest sat plopped in front of the TV or iPad now age, all the way until, they start getting on social media. Like there's already like a game plan of entertainment. And you see it with, big YouTube creators like Mr. Beast, and there's actually like, very secretive, huge media conglomerates that are behind like people like Mr. Beast and, everyone else that is kind of like, what would we talk about, like iPad baby brain rot. We millennials were the first to, American millennials were the first to get, kind of like market segmentation by age in, a bunch of these entertainment companies, animation studios were starting to feel out, how much they could actually sell.
No, certainly. And just to go, just a comment in the chat, Jacob J. Born in '98, got to see a lot of '90s media in the early 2000s with VHS tapes and DVD releases and reruns. Because that's another thing I think with a lot of millennials is we're sort of a transition generation from the analog era to the digital era. We were the last people to really, I think, experience a lot of, again, videos and, radio and a lot of older media before, the Zoomers have only ever really seen digital.
Yeah, they have a different quality to them, man. People have some. If you've read any schizo posts on the internet, they'll go into different things about refresh rates and that dreamlike quality that certain frames per second give you. I'm sure Mikeofpol has read about this, but it had a very different feel. Watching VHS tapes had a very different feel to digital media.
Yeah, and a huge part of that is audio quality too. VHS, it degrades even in storage, in a controlled climate, and it also degrades, with playtime, and eventually, old beat up VHS tapes that were, you as a kid would rewatch over and over and over again. They would develop, it's called tape degradation. They would develop, especially in the audio track, a very specific kind of like whining warble, especially with more classic instrumentation. The character, the timbre of things like flute sections or violin sections that would kind of swell in something like, I don't know. I don't know, like any of these classic films that have that kind of violin swell, it would warble and it would develop a warmth after you rewatch this thing over and over again. And so there's an entire field of study and people trying to replicate, and simulate tape degradation for kind of like nostalgia trip purposes in audio engineering now. It's actually like a domain of research.
That's kind of dark, man, honestly. Like you're trying to emulate like the childhood of these people without doing the actual thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that man-made horrors beyond our comprehension. Are we going to see some or what?
No, certainly. And just got a comment from Mitch. Local Blockbuster was still selling VHS in mid to late 2000s before it closed down. And yeah, I think also with millennials, were the last generation to really, really engage with physical media, actual albums, actual videos and DVDs, and actual physical video games, not just buying everything off Steam. So again, I think that added a kind of a connection with what we were consuming rather than it all just being in the ether.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that the first, Netflix started their business by shipping DVDs in the mail. Before that, the gamers were first to everything. Rise up gamers. Most oppressed minority and all that. But the first service to actually do that was a company that was doing game rentals through the mail. So Netflix was even the first to the punch on that one. And I remember watching commercials, for that service on TV, and I was like, man, I really wish I jumped onto that, because the variety of games you could get would be better than what you'd get at Blockbuster. There was a video rental place that also did video games near me called, what was it? It was Hollywood Video, I think. You can't emulate like the smell. You can't emulate the smell of that place. The very short curls on that industrial carpet, the racks of DVD cases and VHS cases. It's something that, I don't know if it's actually a good thing for the human psyche to experience, that sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Like walking into a Garden of Eden of entertainment. I don't think that's actually good for people. But we all look back at that like very fondly, and maybe that's a bad thing. I'm not sure. I'm undecided on it.
It's almost like a bit of a cornucopia of entertainment. It's because as everything kind of becomes corporatized and massified, you get a decline in quality.
Yeah.
Okay, and because we were talking again, I started this stream with some footage from Toonami in the early 2000s and some intros from some good old millennial cartoons, but not all of these cartoons were as based as they just may have let on. And there's a certain clip from a 90s show called Johnny Bravo that I remember watching that Melon you found and shared on X. And I'm sorry, everybody, but I've got to share this and prepare to cringe.
Sensitivity, sensitivity, show that girl you really give a D. Show her your mind is occupied with more than the pictures in the TV guide. Show her you've got a bit of bona fide sensitivity. 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 Sensitivity makes for a groovy conductivity. The base word sensitive. Sensitive. Now that's an adjective. Adjective. ITY is a suffix they found to tack on the end and make it a noun. And that turns sensitive to sensitivity. 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 Sensitivity.
Oh, dude, it hurts. It hurts
painful.
so bad. Especially because Johnny Bravo is, the coolest dude. He's like buff, getting the ladies. Everything about Johnny Bravo, like as like a platonic form, is like fucking cool. But it's just, it's a proto longhousing because it still had like a dude's face on it.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many millennials that probably one shot. Like they're a dude to have not recovered from that, man. Like it's bad. That was an act of evil, like equivalent to the atomic bomb. That should have never been allowed to go on TV. Sorry, I'm freaking.
No, you're all good, man. It makes me think back. It's very interesting to see as well that the nature of adult themes that kind of creep in to children's entertainment. Oh no, we lost Hitman. That's no good. Well, I guess we'll keep the show rolling. The nature of those different kind of like adult themes that creep in has changed dramatically from whenever we were kids, because I remember, like for instance, like in Powerpuff Girls, the one of the villains is a impossible woman and stuff like that, and
Oh, no.
it's an evil character, right? It's like back in our day,
That's
it was
how it starts, though. Like it shouldn't even be on there.
Yeah, it shouldn't even be on there, but insofar as that was there, it was still, this is the domain of evil, though. And it's interesting how it slid, how quickly it slid from like these small impositions of adult themes where you say, oh yes, the impossible woman, is an evil cretin that's trying to destroy, like nuke a whole town, all the way to, like, basically, I'm trying to be judicious for YouTube. Essentially, go get that surgery. Kids, it's super fun. Go do it. That slider slid really quickly.
Yeah, and say what you want about Black Pill, but when he stays in his lane, he's totally right. And so an example of this is MASH, that old TV show, and they had.
Oh, sorry about that. Lost connection briefly.
No, you're all good. What were you saying, Melon?
So MASH had a guy dressing up as a woman, which I understand some people, that should just not happen. Okay, like that shouldn't be on TV. I don't care if it's a joke. Like this is how it starts. Like Slippery Slope is undefeated.
It's
Yeah.
really funny you say that, Melon, because recently I actually watched the original Twin Peaks for the first time, and I was just surprised to know that there's a kind of cross-dressing character in that, and yeah, so it's that was the early '90s as well. So yeah, we have been sneaking it in there for a while.
Yeah, and that was kind of the point that I was making earlier, was talking about, like, the Powerpuff Girls, one of the evil characters, and in a lot of different pieces of media, there's evil characters that are impossible women or what have you, and it's crazy to see how fast the slider went from this obviously these type of people would be typecast into evil roles in the story, all the way towards, like, go ahead and join the hordes of these type of people. It's fun to go get that surgery. Is essentially what we were talking about, where you kind of broke up there.
Yeah, it's just like a different level of things falling apart, in my opinion. Like that, this is what people don't understand when they like want to go back to the '90s. Like you like that's like trying to go halfway up a slide or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too. It's like, yeah, I guess like nostalgia is like the ultimate boss battle for like a properly ordered society, because it's kind of like the Moldbug point about liberty is not a means; it's an end. It's an end for a properly governed society. In the same way, like the nostalgia for good things is actually that's like an end, and your particular nostalgia is actually stopping you from having the correct means to correct especially media. Like, all of this is couched in kind of like media consumption, because that's how like I said earlier, like a majority of like millennial like self-identity and pro-felicity like kind of works, or was kind of manufactured to work. Like your nostalgia for particular like media environments is already in a state of decline. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, what's even worse is the remasters, which like that phrase in itself is kind of dark. Like I mean, maybe I'm a schizophrenic, right? But remaster. I mean, this is like you're taking the original generative like new thing that was benevolent in a lot of cases, and you're putting it under the auspices of usually like this vampiric company that shouldn't exist anymore. I'm thinking
it's a new master. Yeah, you're giving it a new evil master.
Yeah, it's not good. Like we can't keep looking backwards.
No, I agree. I mean, something I will admit is I don't know if any of you guys have, but I actually bought the Oblivion remaster they brought out a couple of months ago, because I loved that game when I was younger, and I think it's a pretty good remaster, but there's definitely issues with it. And I'll just give you an example of this. You just can't keep rehashing it. And the idea of the company, in this case Bethesda, being vampiric, is they've only just released, like last week, a 15 gigabyte patch after like 6 weeks, and the remaster brought several new bugs into the game. So it's like, in some ways, yes, in some ways it is better. There's better graphics or whatever, and you fix some of the old bugs, but you've added all sorts of new ones in, and you've also made completely unnecessary changes. So like a lot of the female clothing they've changed, so you can't see any hint of cleavage or anything like that. It's just completely silly. It's this idea we've got to just like censor everything.
You said something that kind of piqued my interest about something that I've been thinking about from C.S. Lewis's book, Out of the Silent Planet, where, when the protagonist, this intrepid little, linguist, interesting dorky guy, ends up on Mars and meeting these alien races, the first alien race that he kind of like, I guess like settles down with for a little bit on his journey, around the planet to eventually get back home to Earth. He was kind of amazed by the sense of time that alien race had, because that there is nothing that should be repeated. They don't even have a sense of repeating a part of a song that is their favorite, or trying to relive a particular part of life that they enjoy the most, like chasing the good feeling of becoming a new parent or early adulthood. Like there's that alien race is so they have a sense of direction of time, like in purpose. It's part of their like telos, and they would never even have a concept of going against that. Whereas like millennials are kind of like a deep inversion, which is nothing but hitting the replay button, scrubbing the video to the perfect point that gives you the most satisfaction or happiness, to get the maximum amount of hedons of happiness particles and stuff like that, and instead, like what's kind of like described by Lewis as kind of like a well-running society, is this kind of like tribal hunting band, kind of like very simplistic human organization that doesn't lose track of what time it is. They're perfectly happy to be on their particular stage of life that they're on.
No, certainly, and thank you for sharing that, Mike. And just got another little clip from Melon. This is all to do with their infomercials.
Oh, what's that? They're motorized rocket tops. Rocket tops are the first supercharged electro-powered tops of their kind. You can launch them, stack them, smack them. They're rocket tops! These are the only tops that have a motorized launcher. So for the first time ever, now you can have supercharged rocket tops. You can launch them, you can toss them, you can cross them, even big air. Now that's awesome! Only rocket tops can do all these amazing tricks in all these amazing colors. They even come with this brand new in-flight booster. So now you can keep your tops cruising for hours. That's right, only rocket tops come with the in-flight booster. So the supercharged fun never...
Dude, rocket tops were so fucking fun, man. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about, how there's like kind of a game plan of consumption through every age range. Like, because we got rocket tops and then we got Beyblades, that had this kind of like, I'm 11 and my parents don't understand me, safe, edgy kind of aesthetic. But it was the same thing. They're just tops,
Yeah, and this is also the perfect. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say this other software catalog Melon shared with me. So we can see we've got the birth of the soy jack all those years ago. God help us.
Oh, it's the same guy, isn't it? It is. That's just him, like 30 years ago. Dang, that's deep. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, he never grew up. All he ever wanted was just another rocket top.
Well, okay, so rocket tops is the archetypal millennial kids toy because number one, when I got my parents to buy me it didn't work. And number two, they don't come with, these are only fun if you have friends. And some kids didn't understand that. You need friends for toys to be fun.
Ouch.
I don't know. Well, it depends if you had had genuine autism or not, because I definitely had fun with my rocket top by myself.
So everything was super turbo ultra mega. Yes, indeed, it was Distant Night.
Oh man, someone needs to put that on top of Better, Faster, Stronger by God, that French duo. Why am I forgetting their name?
Daft Punk.
Daft Punk, yeah. Someone needs to put that over Daft Punk, and just have the video be like infomercial, like supercut of toy infomercials from the 90s.
And indeed, and speaking of kids' entertainment, this may be a blast from the past for some people.
Yeah, so as soon as you rolled up to see Shrek or something, this blasting, deafeningly loud thing would just shatter you. And there's nothing quite like it, is there?
No, I will say a lot of these, company, animations they'll play. Some of them are pretty good. I quite like the DreamWorks one, which just the boy sitting in the moon fishing. That was quite wholesome. But I think a lot of the newer ones weren't quite as good.
No, Pixar was wholesome chungus too, with a little lamp. Yeah, no, there was a lot of. I don't know. It felt more sincere, I think, and that could be rose-colored glasses, because like I remember that Pixar little animation with the lamp seeming to be like more real. It's hard to kind of put this into words, but like studio advertisement bumpers, or like studio bumpers on films now, they're made for maximal spectacle now, whereas the Pixar lamp guy seems to be like a fun little thing that, you know, guys in the studio probably like, yeah, dude, this is actually like a cool thing, kind of like show off, you know, something intricate about the lighting technology that they developed, or something. There's probably something more genuine at the heart that gave birth to that particular idea. Instead, now we have bumpers that are just like maximum flashes. How many man hours worth of compositing work can we put? How much bloom can we put on something? You know, how distorted can we make this text? You know, that sort of thing. It's more about spectacle.
You know, that reminds me that there was a meme that goes around, which I probably should have brought up, but it's one I know Charlemagne shared before, and it's just like games like 20 years ago, and it's just, you know, it's like, you know, you've got the enemy, you've got some bloom, you've got some you know, great, nice vibrant colors, and then like in 2025 it's like, you know, RTX on all the way, like ray tracing. It's like a fucking like light show everywhere.
It's too much.
Sometimes simplicity is best.
Yeah, PS2 was fucking awesome. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, and we can see how there needs to be a word for it, like nostalgia chasing or nostalgia sick or something like that, where, you know, we see, you know, half of these attempts to kind of rekindle the kind of aesthetic wonder that you would get from PS2 style graphics in video games. Like, all of it that's made in like the indie game sphere right now is very lackluster, except for, I don't know, maybe Valheim. Valheim kind of captures some of that nascent, ineffable quality, but, you know, everything else is just it's just like gamer slop.
It is. It's slop. And the closest thing to it was probably Skyrim. And I know some people think Skyrim is just like slop, and it kind of is, but it in terms of like an actual leap in what was provided, that's like the most recent one I can think of that models the early 2000s in terms of like rate of improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I suppose that's fair, but I always thought Oblivion was better.
What can I do for you? I'm the only alchemist in Skingrad. Not much business here, but I can't go back to Morrowind. It's just like anywhere else in the Empire. By the way, do you happen to know what the fine is here in Cyrodiil for necrophilia? Just asking. Let's assume... no. That's nothing compared to Morrowind, thanks.
Top 10 out of 10 game.
Oh, dude, Oblivion was so unbelievably good. Like, I remember whenever I found the dupe scroll glitch. I remember the first time, the first run of Oblivion I did, where you know, I went straight into town, duped, got rich as quick as I could, and then I would get to the first Oblivion gate, and then you would get to the end, and right before you would take the sphere, you would save, and you would keep reloading until you got the sphere that you wanted. So you could, and then you would dupe that, and then you would get a full stack of equipment with whatever modifier that you wanted. Like, I did one run that was like full chameleon, where nobody could see me at any time ever. Like, oh man, like even when that game was broken, it was still brilliant.
It was janky, but it was janky in a fun way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of that era of games...
Dude,
Dude.
YouTube was never as good as this. It's never gonna be as good. It's over. YouTube's done. Like,
oh my god, dude, this is taking me back, man. You get a really good, and it didn't matter. It actually didn't matter what game it was, right? So I remember there was Breaking Benjamin edits of what was it? Maple Story. If any of you guys remember that MMO RPG from South Korea called Maple Story, I remember watching edits, and supercuts of like boss fights, set to Breaking Benjamin in that game and stuff. And it didn't matter what game it was. If it had a hard as fuck, Atreyu song, Breaking Benjamin song, Seo Sin, like anything that was like emo to the bone, as a backing track and like fairly quick cuts, dude, you couldn't beat that. That was better than cocaine by a long shot.
I mean, all I'll say is, other than Call of Duty, that wasn't the only online games you could play.
Yeah, give me a sec. I'm coming up with 32.33, repeating, of course, percentage of survival.
Well, that's a lot better than we usually do.
Alright, chums up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leroy Dragons!
Oh my god, he just ran in. Save him!
Oh, geez, stick to the plane!
Oh, Jesus. Let's go. Stick to the plane, Shove.
Stick to the plane.
Oh, gee. Oh, fuck. Give me divine intervention.
beat me
amazing.
to it, man. Beat me to it. Yeah.
How could I not include it in a stream titled Millennial Culture? That was easily one of the first internet memes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. I mean, it was definitely the one that reached probably the highest amount of like cultural saturation. It's the first time that we saw like that sort of like nascent internet like humor kind of penetrate into the mainstream as well, because I mean there was what was it, there was films that made reference to the whole Leroy thing, like it ended up penetrating everywhere to the point where not just like regular young dudes who play World of Warcraft like knew about it. Which is kind of insane. It's kind of insane to think about, because that was novel. That was extremely novel at the time.
No, certainly. And obviously we talked about remasters and remakes, but I remember, speaking of World of Warcraft, when I was younger, I only discovered it because like my cousins played it, and me and my brother wanted to play it. And my parents were like, "What? You have to pay a subscription for this? That's a rip-off. You're not playing this." And so I never really got to play. Yeah, they were right. And so I never really got to play Classic WoW properly. And then, of course, when they released it in 2019, I was like hot on that shit. And it was fun. But yeah, as you said, Melon, my parents were right. Why didn't I listen to them?
And a weird inversion has happened. I still keep up with some of my... man, there's been like a diversion. Like some millennials are like turbo athlete racists at this point, but some are like super loser gamers still. And RuneScape has actually like killed WoW somehow. Like RuneScape was the poor kid, like you can't afford a WoW subscription.
Hey, dude, you better watch your tone, because that was 100% me. So I feel like every millennial that was a gamer had like an MMO like tech tree. So you were you either got stuck into WoW and you were stuck in WoW forever, and then eventually moved on to like MOBAs. But if you weren't a WoW kid, you ended up usually on the RuneScape path, and then you could branch into like several different places. So mine was RuneScape, then MapleStory, and then Guild Wars. I was huge into Guild Wars. I'm still crazy about Guild Wars. Like Guild Wars 2 actually kind of slaps. Hell, Guild Wars 1 still slaps. So
I
bite it, Melon.
Yeah, I loved the original Guild Wars, because I played that with some friends, because my parents wouldn't let me get WoW because of the subscription. So yeah, Guild Wars was like my alternative, and Guild Wars 2 is pretty good as well.
Which MMO did you guys play?
I would assume WoW.
I would assume WoW as well, but it could be something completely out of left field. It could have been, I don't know, yeah, because there was a bunch of South Korean MMOs that were floating around as well. So it could be something completely out of left field that even I've never heard of. But I'm gonna say WoW. RuneScape, let's go. Another RuneScape chat. Yeah, no, fuck you, Melon.
Man, WoW,
Yeah,
it's so dark. Yeah, we got stuff, man. RuneScape Chads have just destroyed us. It's done.
Yeah, I can never get into RuneScape, but I appreciate why people love it, so I won't shit on them for it. Okay, we've got some other clips.
All right. Today is June the 10th, 2011. We're going to check and see what racist statements we have here on Xbox Live. I like to play Xbox Live, play Mortal Kombat and Madden and whatnot. And let's see what the white people have to say today.
We all know what the white people had to say today.
Yes, indeed.
The white people would say, man, that was, oh, dude, nostalgia glasses again, man. It's like, dude, we shouldn't go back to this. But I want to, like, something deep in my soul wants to go back to this. Like, Xbox should not exist in a just world. But if Xbox did exist, it should be like this.
One thing I will say, that seems a good time, is, there's this idea that the millennials are, there's a term that's used for them, is that they're the new boomers, and in a way that's kind of true, because if we're talking about, AA's got his idea of the boomer truth regime, I think the boomers and the millennials are the biggest sort of defenders of the boomer truth regime. The boomers are definitely more the, the mid-century Germans were bad people side of it, whereas I think the millennials are defenders of the other side, which is, the whole unlimited individual self-expression, because, we love our, entertainment stuff, our video games, our shit pop music and shit TV shows, and we just indulge in all this nostalgia, and it's not healthy. And to just drop another comparison, another generation that I actually see some similarities with is actually the Lost generation, which were the generation that was born in the tail end of the 19th century, the generation that fought World War One. And though ultimately we haven't gone through, we've not all died in a horrific war, we still have had lots of, what you could call horrific events we've lived through. We had the War on Terror, we've had 2003 invasion of Iraq, we had the 2008 financial crisis, we've had our own, I guess, struggles to deal with. And in a way, I almost feel like we're all a little bit traumatized, or at least that's what we've been conditioned to be like. And I think a lot of people take comfort in a lot of this slop culture as kind of like a big coping mechanism. What was your guys' thoughts?
No, that's a true clear bomb. I don't have any notes on that. That's just true. That's a true clear bomb right there.
Thank you. And because again, an expression that's used in respect to the Lost Generation is this idea of the fin de cycle, or the end of a cycle. And there's this idea that, when the 20th century was coming, it was going to be this grand new era of progress, and then you got one of the worst wars in human existence. And so I kind of feel like the same with the millennials. We were sort of prophesized to be this great, generation that was going to make things better. And if anything, I think we made things a hell of a lot worse in many ways.
Yeah, and I think that generational engine that kind of produced it produced a perception of generational cycles that I think is definitely broke, because there's not, as far as I can see, a difference in like the hopefulness coefficient of the generations after us, like the Zoomers and Alphas. Like they're stepping into something that's like completely and totally fucked. They're all borderline sewer slidal. Just like half of millennials are, and so it's actually that kind of like hopefulness coefficient has actually continued to get worse, and so there's not actually an impetus for there to be a significant difference between generations. As far as I see, I could be calling it wrong.
I would say, Halo 3. I would say that.
Just very quickly, the guys who don't know, Charlemagne has used to be a bit of a gaming channel. So if you go to Charlemagne's back catalogue, he's got like lots of gaming videos. He's got Halo. He's got some like Star Wars was it Empire at War, the strategy game, and he's also got a secret gaming channel where he and Mr. D commented on some of Morkar's Dark Souls playthrough, which they're also pretty fun to watch. So if you ever get a spare moment, give that a watch.
Yeah, real quick, pull up that clip. Hey,
We're
I
not
gotta
leaving
go
him
through.
here.
Yeah, you're not.
Oh, crazy fool. Why do you always jump? One of these days, you're gonna land on something as stubborn as you are.
Okay, look me in the eye and tell me that's not equivalent to like the resurrection of Christ coming through whatever white man made this game. Like that's what that is. Like this was still made by our guys back then. Like, you know what I mean? Like this isn't just me, right? That's
Yeah, but now see, but the thing is that someone like me who wasn't a Halo guy, because I was all PlayStation, I view that and all I can hear is like, man, that guy sounds like Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks. You know what I mean? Like, so for some people, and this is part of the stratification as well in terms of like media becoming integral to identity, is for me, it doesn't have that same like, holy shit, this is the most important thing I've ever seen, because I wasn't a Halo kid. So you even get like very different stratifications based on who internalized what.
Certainly. And another broad point I want to comment on is a game of culture. I almost feel like millennials have to subvert something that may mean something higher. Like, again, what this clip we've just seen with Halo, there is a spirit of something higher there, but it's kind of been mundanified by putting it in the soldier in a video game. A good example is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. There was something higher and spiritual there, but then it gets degraded with all the the video games and other shit that they kind of made with that. And I just think it brings the whole thing down. And what doesn't help is some of the memes that came out of that, like this one.
Oh no,
dude, I have such an old memory of this. I couldn't tell where this was coming from. I'm so glad you posted that. I have an old memory of that. They must have done a bunch of those.
Again, the millennials created some of the first memes, but we also created some of the most cursed memes.
Yeah. I'm kind of thinking back about what you just said a moment ago, Hitman. It's like, yeah, I mean, I guess you could chart something from this Halo clip where there's still a seedling of sincerity, to something that ultimately, does the imminent inversion to the point of subverting is the new water you swim in. Like the rise of the anti-hero or the complicated, broken person who's the protagonist in a piece of media. Like House MD is probably the biggest one, and it's still getting a bunch of play because there's kind of this reactionary element, especially on Twitter, to like put, because House had this the subversive quality in his own character where he could still play this kind of like jaded internal monologue of the normal younger viewer, but it was still couched in, the whole series was still it was still like a television series that was still talking about like, oh, this this patient is trans or something, and House would make a big show about talking about, you're a dude, you have a penis, or something like that. It would still have that inversion, but he's this broken character that's actually kind of a useful tool to put along, the bigger picture, which is, the show is actually, trying to reinforce a lot of this boomer truth regime stuff.
Certainly, and just doing something short, I mean, the worst thing is that most millennials are total normies who are still into memes exactly like that Isengard meme. Yeah, exactly. It's like totally like brain dead. Right, and speaking of lack of sincerity, got another clip from Melon.
Get up, Homer. It's time for church.
I don't want to go.
It's church. You have to go.
Too cold out.
I'm tired of having having this argument every Sunday. Get dressed.
Oh, stupid itchy church pants. One size fits all my butt.
Come on, we're going to be late.
Forget it. I'm not going.
Hey, where's Homer? Your father's resting. Resting hungover, resting got fired. Help me out here.
I'm just a big toasty cinnamon bun.
So here we can see the quintessential like shitting on the dad, the lazy patriarch, the caricature, saying, "Oh, I don't want to go to church." The reason we go to church isn't elaborated on. The woman's the one enforcing it. Oh, it's just this pointless exercise held up by inertia, and it's time to move on from it, guys. I don't know where this episode aired, but I remember a lot of people stopped going to church around like 2002, 2003. I don't know about you guys.
I was a very avid Simpsons watcher when I was younger, and this episode I'm pretty sure is from the earlier seasons, the kind of classic period. So I would say the first half of the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah. In terms of me, I'm sorry. Okay. In terms of me, my family's not religious, so I didn't really go to church. However, I did go to a Baptist school, so we sang religious songs in the assembly, and we did go to the church across the road on occasion. But that was the extent of my religious experience.
Yeah, it's you could see where this trend ultimately culminated in like the explosion in popularity of The Amazing Atheist, because like a bunch of 14 and 15-year-olds wanted to intellectualize what was the culmination of this, where the patriarch actually did stop taking their kids to church, because I mean that happened with my family too, because we were like my dad taught Sunday school, and I was Sunday school all throughout my youth, and then when I was 14 I became a very cringe atheist, because I was young, dumb, and retarded, and that eventually came back to faith as I got older. But this is a really real phenomenon. So as much as this is kind of like a kind of like evil, malicious, like predictive programming thing that we all want to say it is, because it pretty much is. It is also touching on a real phenomenon that did happen, and I'm not so sure that The Simpsons or the other pieces of media that kind of typified this exact scene that we're seeing, the giving up on church. There's kind of a chicken and the egg problem there, because probably independent of media, this phenomenon was still happening.
Yes, I do remember that jingle. Very much so.
Yeah, and it wasn't just church. It was also just keeping standards in general. It was like, why do anything? Like, that's how I remember it. It's just a gradual,
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Very true. Okay, we've got another clip.
Wrong, Annie.
I killed them. I killed them all. They're dead. Every single one of them. And not just the men, but the women. And the children, too. They're like animals, and I slaughtered them like animals. I hate them.
Angst. Just angst.
Angst.
I blame Nirvana personally.
Probably true. I mean, yeah, probably definitely true. Yeah, there's I don't know. I don't know how to separate myself from from the angst maxing, because I was definitely like a JD Vance fat emo kid with the lollipop and the spinner hat, but was still emo. And especially like goes into the music that kind of went along with this, because post Nirvana, yeah, you had like the tweeny like emo explosion kind of Vance Warped Tour kind of thing, and it's kind of that emotion is kind of like summed up in this clip, because it wasn't just having this kind of like Star Wars anti-hero. It was also the music and everything else. Oh no, not Bieber. No.
One of the most people I truly hate on earth.
I've kind of changed my opinion on him. What if he's just like a sex slave eunuch for some of these people? Like, we didn't know the world was the way it was like back then. We just thought, oh,
that is true. Diddy definitely oiled him up. I mean, like, let's all be real here. That happened. Especially like, because it wasn't, I don't know. I might've been 20, I guess, whenever I first saw online about how Elijah Wood was talking about there's PDF files in Hollywood and stuff, because he kind of was like the dog Lassie barking at the well, being like, yeah, I was kind of abused, and then kind of like shirked off into the shadows, so that definitely happened. So sorry, Biebs, but
yeah, so I'm
still
sorry,
hate you.
Justin Bieber. Yeah, still hate you, but sorry about that.
No, I mean, the only thing I'll say, he's a reminder of what could have happened to us if things had gone the worst possible course. you could have been prostituted as some child pop star and then just be known as a wanker, really.
Dude, the modern Aesop's Fable will have Justin Bieber as like a tale warning the youth away from fame.
Yeah, I feel that. Okay, got more clips.
This is where we hold them. This is where we fight. This is where they die. On these shields, boys! Remember this day, man, for it will be yours for all time.
There's still some testosterone.
Yep.
Yes.
300 was
indeed.
based. 300 was based. I'll die on that hill.
Yeah, no, it was a good film. One of the rare examples of actual strong men and testosterone being allowed on the screen.
Hey, and then you also had the physiognomy is never wrong element, with that evil hunchback. There was a lot of good stuff in there, and there was a lot of great stuff in there.
Certainly. And while we're talking about the ancient world, of course, it's around this time you also had the show HBO's Rome, which was great in many ways, and I think has got a lot of the macho stuff in there as well, with the Roman legeries and all that. But to bring it down a bit, I do also think that with a show like Rome, as good as it was, I do also think there is, again, more subversion coming in, because you've frequently got the increasing encroachment of sex and violence into TV. As a comparison, I've recently been rewatching I, Claudius, which is an old BBC show from the 70s, and obviously, again, it's similar time period, but in that show, there's hardly any sex. There's no sex, and there's hardly any violence. It's mostly just people talking and the drama. And as much as I love Rome, in a way, I actually think I, Claudius is a better show, because again, it's actually focusing on the ideas of what's going on there in the show, rather than just trying to keep your attention starved per person with gratuitous sex and violence. I mean, what's your guys' thought?
No, agreed. 100% agreed. I mean, we saw this with every domain in film, and shows. We saw. It's because of HBO. It's really because of HBO, because that pull, that allure of having that secret thing that Dad watched, where it was sex and violence, and ultimately that kind of like commercial success of HBO meant that, you know, I guess a lot of these writers' rooms kind of realized that, man, they can be way more competitive in terms of like media market stuff if they make their content like that too. So yeah, it's bad. It's horrible. Bad trend.
Yes, so Dingle says they're playing Rome Total War a lot of the time. 300 came out, good stuff. Yeah, I actually got into Total War around that same time as well, and yes, great game series. And another comment from Michael Hasler. A core component of millennial culture was zombies, media, and the rise of the creepypasta. Oh god, yeah, they really did spam a lot of zombie stuff. Like you had films like, was it 28 Days Later? You had like Left 4 Dead. You had the Nazi zombies mode for Call of Duty. It was a bit of an oversaturation, and I've got a bit of a theory about that. I almost think on some level it was an attempt to propagandize into young people this idea of, if the world's going to go to shit, it will be zombies and not like something else.
Yep. But creepy. This is a really good comment because we can point to another example of permanent adolescence here, because the chasing for the nostalgia of the creepypasta led to things like SCP and these kind of writing like communal writing project things. It's like. And it's essentially Disney adults for like creepy crawly stuff, but turned into SCP, and it's all like, like, dude, you're a grown ass man. You can't be writing like creepy crawly stories, on the internet, for in this creepypasta format. Like, be adult about this and actually like write a book or a novella or maybe even a short story, but instead...
Well, I would contest that. I agree that like the creepy pastas, but I think the green text is still like one of the most efficient ways to get at the core of something. Would you agree with that?
I think it is an adolescent format. I still think that is... there's something about the format that's still like... It's kind of like showing off the fact that I'm young, even though the green text... 4chan's old, man. Hell, it went down, not too long ago because of a massive hack. It's just... It's not... and I realize the irony, with my name being Mikeofpol, but, it's just... It is old. We're old men. We need to grow up. Although there is... But to your point, there is a way of writing something extremely curt that cuts straight to the quick. But I don't know if the green text is really still the format. It doesn't have the same zhuzh anymore. It doesn't have that kind of like scare factor for a normie, because it's like, it's out of 4chan. It's like, no, there's like normie meme accounts on Instagram that make up like fake
true.
green text. Yeah,
right.
They make up fake green text.
It's time for it to go. Yeah, it's over.
It's over.
I think an element of it is, just wanting to get, a kick out of, shock and horror, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, again going back to Rome, or even a later HBO show, Game of Thrones. It's all let's just see if we can just shock our way to being a great show, rather than having any long running workable plot. Right, as another clip.
I think that. What did they mean by this?
Dude, and for the younger people in the audience, you got to cast yourself like imagine, you're like a 13-year-old kid and you just saw that and you had never seen anything like that before. I mean, really? You'd never seen anything like that before? Dude, you would be floored. Like, you would be floored for days after just seeing that clip.
Well, I would also say, like, the structure or outline of trailers now is not there anymore, because the end of this, like, the end result's still in question. Like, are the Romans going to lose? Are you going to send them all back? Like, it's like left open-ended, and they don't. It's just like they try and just use flash and so forth, like you said, Mike. Now they don't even have like a structure for what they do anymore. It's just slop.
No, exactly. And as much as I love Rome Total War, and my favourite classic one was actually Medieval 2. Did you guys play that one?
Yeah. Shout out to Bobby. The Russians are still modding that. It's better than any game you can play for if you actually have time to play it.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that there are so many mods they're still making, and because the thing is, Rome 1 and Medieval 2, that was actually when CA made the games relatively not that difficult to mod. So there's still new mods coming out today, whereas everything afterwards, from Empire onwards, they made the code in such a way that's much harder to mods. And yes, I've noticed there's like an Azeroth WoW conversion mod for Medieval 2. There's an Elder Scrolls 1. Hell, there's a bloody 19th century one. So if you want to play like the American Civil War and Medieval 2, you can do it.
Indeed.
See, I wasn't much of a. See, I kind of want to say like I wish I could go back and play different games and get that kind of experience. But at the same time, I think it's you got to grow up at one point, because you can't recapture that at all. I don't think. I spent my time just like putting hours and hours into Guild Wars, so I just have to live with myself for that. So thinking about ending things.
No.
Oh Lord.
Now we get to play Barbarian. We get to play Barbarian Invasion in real life now, guys. Things aren't so bad.
No, we need to build the new Hadrian's Wall. Send them back.
Agreed.
Okay, there's another infomercial.
Hi, Billy Mays here for OxyClean, the stain specialist. Powered by the air you breathe, activated by the water that you and I drink. It's Mother Nature approved, then it's safe on your colored fabrics. Use it on carpets. OxyClean seeks out organic stains, pet stains, food stains. They get down into the matting, into the padding. It even takes red wine and grape juice out of white carpeting. It cleans, it brightens, and eliminates odors all at the same time. Don't just get it clean, get it OxyClean.
Man, Billy Mays was so unbelievably good. Like marketing has never been the same, and no one has ever replicated what the sort of I guess like personability of like a TV, like I hate to say it, but shyster. He's just selling you this product that you don't really need. You could just use vinegar, and you know what I mean. But his son Billy Mays III is still on Twitter. He's kind of a dork. He makes a lot of really good music, though. Interesting guy. He still nostalgia posts about his dad. I mean, that's probably like, I don't know, 60% of his content being like nostalgia trip stuff, for aging millennials to watch these infomercials again, and a little behind the scenes things about his dad. It's very interesting, but it's kind of weird now getting to see behind the curtain and how, whatever fondness we may have for the, Billy Mays, the idea, when actually you peel back the layers and get to see a son, like, kind of reanimating his corpse, for, online prophilicity, it kind of makes your stomach turn.
Yeah, and I'm going to do something very rare. I'm going to genuinely thank Obama for something. He, during his presidency, they passed a law that limited the decibels allowed on commercials on the television. True. Because this guy would pull up and he would yell at the start of his thing, "Hi, Billy Mays here," as loud as he could, and they would artificially crank up the decibels, and it was just so loud. Like,
Yeah, there's actually, there's a psychoacoustic reason why that is. No matter what you're actually listening to, your perception of any noise will sound in some imperceptible way better if it is louder, which is interesting. Irregardless of whether if it's people speaking or if it or what timbre the sound is. Yeah, you will subconsciously like it more if it's louder, even if you don't like it, because the commercials were loud as shit. And that was one thing that really pissed me off, is because you were watching, I don't know, like a anime late night on like Toonami or something, and then it would be very delicately, masterfully balanced audio, and then it would hit a commercial, and then your ears were blown out every single time. Your parents woke up, they came and yelled at you to go to bed. It was horrible experience.
It's funny you say that, because there's a classic British advert from the early 2000s with another very loud guy. I'm actually going to quickly share my screen because I've got to share this with you. One moment. Okay.
Hi, I'm Barry Scott, and I'm here with Jill, who uses Sillet Bang, Grime and Lime. So Jill, what do you think?
Well, Barry, I use it all over the house. It's great on lime scale. My sink sparkles. The kids make such a mess in the bathroom, but it tackles soap scum, no problem.
And now for the tough test, my old favourite.
You love that one, Barry.
With this much power on the tough jobs, everyday cleaning is a doddle with Sillet Bang, Grime and Lime. Give it a go. Bang, and the dirt is gone.
I turned it down a bit, but that advert is normally much louder than that. Is going, "Hi, I'm Barry Scott," bang, and the dirt is gone, and that's kind of it. You walk away deafened.
Yeah, somebody should do a Too Many Cooks style, like AI video remix, where it's that commercial and then it slowly transmogrifies into, like he's like in a horror film or something. Because that would drive me crazy. He has none of the charm of Billy Mays. That's horrible.
I remember him muscling in on Billy Mays' turf after he died from a tragic cocaine overdose, and I remember his name from that.
No, indeed. Right. There's some other memes we've got here. Yeah, I do have to say, I always appreciated SpongeBob's blind optimism.
You're good. Keep going. You're good.
That's pretty good.
Our entire generation, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's so true. On several different levels, yeah. Oh, it's over.
It's so over. And got more cringe where that came from.
Yeah, the invention of Quirk Chungus. Even though this meme is a lot newer. I don't think we actually put it in these terms back in the day. But this was absolutely probably 10% of the girls at my high school were Quirk Chungus oids. Yeah, very interesting development. Interestingly enough, how many of them have strange genders now? It's about all of them.
No, and damn, what was it? This bloody Quirk Chungus. It's reminded me of the Tard Wife meme.
No, but this is like the evil, like Black Mirror image or like reflection of what a Tard Wife is. This is like the most evil, birthed from Satan in a cauldron version of a Tard Wife.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And,
this is the fate of, So just to clarify, the origin of the emo Pepe thing is from Mystery Grove. He gets credit for that.
Hell yeah!
I never knew that. I thought it was something you made.
No, I stole it.
Well, okay, let's read this. The distant right has breached its contract. Who could have foreseen that I might be mocked on the internet for gaining weight? Who could have predicted that I might be attacked in online conservative spaces for lending my support to liberal political candidates? Why might people find it distasteful that I support right-wingers being thrown in jail by left-wingers for dubious reasons? My failed attempts to halfway adopt a meme lifestyle I heard about online reflect far more negatively on online spaces than they do on myself. I cannot believe that, although I was once tolerated as tedious but mostly harmless when I at least pretended to attempt to contribute to productive efforts. Now that all I do is attack right-wingers and help liberals, my former peers have very little patience for me. This is not what I signed up for when I agreed to be based. Well,
Man,
the thing
there
is,
are so many people. Oh my god! And this is real. This is really a banger. This is a banger post because this typifies so many people. It's unbelievable. It cuts right to the quick.
I mean, exactly. It's the friend-enemy distinction. I'm sorry, when you jump on this, you don't just get to jump off and still be friends. That's not how it works.
That's right, Dickie Spencer. You're a traitor to Trump. You're a traitor to Q. Okay.
Yeah, but considering the current news in the Middle East, I think Trump may end up being a traitor to us all, but that remains to be seen.
Trump is a traitor to Trump. Trump is a traitor to Q. No! It's over.
Yeah, what's this one? Michael has also another aspect of millennial culture is the aesthetics of Frutiger Aero. Anyone remember that?
Dude, okay, I've actually been working on a thing. So if any of you guys know Dimes and Judas, those guys over there at Blood Satellite, a while back, they ran a kind of like an aesthetics demo competition in their Telegram and, on Twitter and stuff, where they were trying to see if they could find a kind of like an aesthetic that would help us escape like synthwave or all the various variations of slash wave. Because we've got all the different wave aesthetics. It's been kind of done to death, they didn't have a lot of success finding like, this is the one. This is the aesthetic that's going to replace the synthwave stuff. But I had a vision not that long ago of like brutalism plus Frutiger Aero would be like a new, because you're still getting an element of the past, in the same way that synthwave kind of gloms onto the 80s. Now we're moving up the time scale to like the birth of Windows 7, Frutiger Aero, and all that. But still have that element that we're all kind of feeling with the human subject is kind of in crisis right now. We're all kind of like meandering and hopeless in one way or another. So plus like brutalism or kind of like strange like bird cages like scattered around like a Windows 7 background or something. And so that was the thought I had, months after that competition was gone. I was like, man, if I would have just thought of that and submitted that probably would have been a banger. But I ended up making a demo for it. But anyway, Frutiger Aero is actually kind of cool. Kind of like it.
Interesting. And talking about brutalism, I'm just reminded of an older Morgoth video where he was talking about so in the northeast in Newcastle, there's this famous car park because it was featured in the Michael Caine film Get Carter, and more because it's very brutalist in style. It's all that kind of Soviet-esque kind of concrete blocks. And what ends up happening is sometime ago, since the new millennium, they just demolished the car park and they built this like great glass like slug building, and it's just like in a way, though the old car park was kind of a bit imposing and shades of Soviet aesthetics. It kind of there's kind of like a frank, brutal honesty about it. Whereas when you just got like this gay like glass shit, it's all a bit feminine, isn't it?
Yeah, there's it's interesting to see like there's different kind of internet subcultures that have kind of glommed on to some sort of remix of brutalism. For like searching for some sort of aesthetic thing that'll magically make the world more hopeful because they've remixed, what out of what our current kind of modernism is, or postmodernism, really, to be, strictly correct in terms of architecture. So you have like these weird kind of like not quite DSA socialist, but these kind of like, they're kind of like soft socialist tankies, but they're not really tankies, but they're kind of like soft underbelly that just make like online art that will remix brutalism into like brutalist futurism and stuff like that. And you see it now where some of these similar types they're also adding like solar punk or steampunk plus brutalism, where they're taking the most hopeful elements of some other aesthetic in order to brighten up something that's brutalist. And I think that's interesting. It seems like that's not what I had identified, when I was talking about just a minute ago, is something that a bunch of different people are kind of like putting their finger on in the subconscious, is that a different type of brutalism is kind of like in like the public subconscious.
No, interesting. And on to the next meme.
Oh, let's go. Oh man, I was blowing out my cheap desktop speakers to this all day, every day when I was a kid. Let's go.
One thing I have to say, this song, if I recall, I think it's Decode by Paramore, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just that my mother, even though she's like a younger boomer, fucking loves that song. And it just seems really strange to me that a woman her age likes that song.
Well,
yeah.
This was Twilight's theme song, right?
Was it?
I
don't remember that
watched
part.
Twilight.
I've never watched Twilight either. Actually,
neither have I.
Yeah, you're not a true millennial unless you've watched Twilight. So that's why I can sneak around and pretend I'm a millennial.
Yeah.
No, but this kind of like twingy, tweeny, like emo stuff. It is very unsettling to see, like my parents, or my mom specifically, because she got exposed to a lot more of this kind of music, but also like heavy metal and stuff like that. Whenever she started powerlifting, she had kind of like this flight of fancy to become a power lifter, like when she was 40. So she did that. She's strong as hell. It's kind of crazy. But anyway, it's weird to see her kind of like come back around to it. I hear stuff like this, but stuff I haven't heard before. It's probably like, modern stuff that's kind of like calling back to this style that I've never heard before. It's weird.
And I'm not saying Mystery Grows a Wizard, but he posts that Pepe on May 1st, and then this is circulating within the month, and people like the emo nostalgia is here, unfortunately. Like,
I'm 100%. Yeah, I'm 100% on board for it. Like, I was I was fat emo kid. Like 100%, I'm with it. Bring it back.
Screw the thing. I think there was a lack of bullying that allowed people to live like this in public, and because I remember this being a thing at the time, and I just absolutely hated it. And another example is I was riding in the car with my brother a couple of months ago, and he had like Apple Music on, and it was all just playing shit that was borderline this, and I found it so hard to tolerate for the 20-minute drive.
Hey, how about this, Finkel? The emo kids for Q are gonna send you to CCOT. How about that? How about that, Finkel? How about that? We're coming back, baby. We are back. So, okay, it was a lot of It's So Over. This is where we're getting to It's So Back.
Yes, indeed, crawling in my skin. I'd say you did a very good job with all of those, emo gifs, and Melon, hats off.
Yeah, Melon, you're a wizard.
It's touching on something, man. Like, it's the age is here for that, I think. And it's going to be a little cringe, but we're going to be in it for a while.
I got just reminded of a month ago. I went to read. I shared this on Twitter. I went to read in my garden, and I think my older millennial neighbours started playing bloody Closer to the Edge by Linkin Park. I'm like, for God's sake, exactly what I want when I'm trying to bloody read. And I shared it, and then Mandel replied, and then I just quote tweeted him with one of your edits, Melon, and it's just like,
Yeah,
God,
well, you know what that means, right? If that's happening and like you go outside and that's what you're hearing, that means that's like the spirit of like we're not going to be able to get away from it for a while. Like it's back for now, I think. It's not a forced meme, that's for sure. Like people are feeling that with all its cringe and all its sometimes good parts.
I will say my music taste for my age is a little bit unconventional because I like quite a lot of older music, especially a lot of 80s music. And one of the reasons is I just thought a lot of music that was around was kind of crap, to be honest, and just thought, well, back then they seemed to understand what made music worked. And I knew I was kind of a bit of a contrarian for that, but I didn't care.
I don't know. I guess I'm kind of like an odd case, especially in like this circle on the internet, because like I'm full. I am pro this change from actual like tonal melody, harmony, arrangement into this new era where we have sound design as in timbre as the major component of how music works now. And most people think it's shit, but I was a really big fan. Like I'm a classically trained musician, and I was a really big fan of like the percussion ensembles of Nick Cage and these other like Music Concrete and all these other kind of like musical movements that were kind of like the very philosophical preamble towards a lot of this change to timbre being the most important part of the arrangement of a piece of music. And you saw the beginning of it, with emo music. If you weren't one of these weirdos that whenever we were kids, listening in America at least, that was listening to techno or EDM or IDM, then your taste of timbre being, a primary compositional element of a track was the vocal affect of people screaming in the mic and getting a good scream. In to make a piece of music, powerful and emotionally compelling. So I'm actually not horribly against this kind of trend where we got from, at least in the American context, because we had much less electronic music, into full-on like soundscapes, through like human voice and every type of instrument. And being more experimental. I actually don't hate it. I'm kind of a fan.
Oh, well, agree to disagree. But quick aside, Michael has that also with millennial culture. Doctor Who really got popular, especially the David Tennant incarnation. Yeah, I never was really into the new Doctor Who, but that shit is bloody subversive because if you guys don't know, but Millennial Woes actually did a series of articles on his Substack earlier this year, all on that incarnation of Doctor Who, and it's so subversive. They're like, because the creator is a gay guy, and he's just shoved all this like subversive like gay crap into it, and as it kind of went on, it just got worse and worse as time went on. So again, another reason you shouldn't be nostalgic for the products of the early 2000s.
I have no shame. Hail emo.
Yes, back to emo shit.
I'm feeling numb, you're not the only one. I'll take you by the hand and I'll show you a world that you can understand. This life is filled with hurt when happiness doesn't work. Trust me and take my hand when the lights go out, you'll understand. Without love, can't get enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop torturing everybody with that.
This is the perfect example of like there was a bunch of tweets circling around where people were talking about what, like, I don't know, maybe it was like Black Twitter was talking about whether or not a white boy could be soulful. And of course, a bunch of our guys glommed onto that and posted, mid-century Germans or so, like they did their normal thing. But dude, actually the where a white boy could be soulful was stuff like this. Like there was a real element of I don't know, like subsiding kind of like the woes and pains of everyday life, like in this music. It was cathartic. And so, yes, I'm unashamed. It's great. It's better. Yes, Charlie, it's better than WAP. It's better than WAP.
Hunger, you should be ashamed.
True. But so if no, you're right. He's right. No lies detected.
No lies detected.
Okay, well, listen. I know that's cringe, but if you want to listen, the secret to dispelling emo for the second time is you have to play this. That killed it. You have to understand that was the one ring that ruled them all. It killed the whole phase. That had 250 million views in 2012.
Yep.
Brown people didn't have internet in 2012. Like, it was, that's the one ring. If you want to make emo go away again, you have to spam that song. It's the only way to do it.
No, please don't give them the key. Please, can we stew in this for like 10 years, dude? It would be awesome.
Talking about post rock and Pearl Jam. I mean, I think Pearl Jam are a bit overrated. And in my opinion, I think the only truly good grunge band was Soundgarden. I think in the long stretch of things, their stuff still holds up, whereas everything else was kind of a bit cringe.
I do think Pearl Jam is shit. Yeah, so I agree with you, Hitman. I kind of hate Pearl Jam. So yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, certainly. Okay. Oh God, we've got more emo stands. I stand with emo music. God's
Let's
sake.
go! The tide is rising.
Yeah, we're winning.
All right. Well. Okay. Another thing to move to is probably to talk more about some other franchises and films. And there's one we've not really talked about, which I think kind of devoured our generation, especially women, and it's the Harry Potter films. Because I take it, because when I was a child, I read all the books. Did you guys read all the books as well, or were you not into it? Or
I didn't just read them. My dad paid me $20 to read each book.
He paid you to read them?
He paid me to read them.
This is a very American thing. I don't know of anyone else in the world that had this kind of arrangement with their parents, but this was not uncommon because there was this big push with accelerated reading programs where you would have like kind of library set quizzes where they put a bunch of interns on making like 10-question quizzes for the computer for you to like pump up like a reading score. And it was some weird, like the metric becoming the measure of success instead of like kids actually being literate. It was very odd. But part of this is parents went full on board, and my parents had a similar deal where they would pay me extra money to read more books and stuff like that. It was very strange. It was a very strange time. But for me, Harry Potter, to get back to Harry Potter specifically, I was always like I could never sleep. Like I've been an insomniac my entire life, like horribly, like cripplingly. And one of the things that helped me a lot when I was a kid was listening to audiobooks on tape. And so I would have this kind of like tape player, like mini radio right by my bed. And I would play the Harry Potter books in order to help me go to sleep. So like and this is horrible to admit, I'm going to get eviscerated for the rest of my life. This is going to get clipped. I'm never going to live it down. But I kind of enjoyed the Harry Potter series like a lot. I don't know, listening to it on book at that being kind of like, like a soothing, for my ailment of like being a fucking ADHD, like Spurgoid kid. That was good.
Oh dear, Vingle.
Wow.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it's over for me. So there we go. I opened up my heart to you. You guys better
Okay,
appreciate
all right.
it.
I have two thoughts on this. One, there's a lot of millennials who are I can't say that word, who are gaily waiting for their letter from Hogwarts still, and that needs to stop.
Oh no, it's cringe. No, the IP is totally and completely cringe. It's just like I remember it fondly because it helped me go to sleep.
No, yes, but I wouldn't say there's no value in it. I don't think it's an accident. Okay, this is a schizo take, right? I don't think it's an accident when something ends up in front of millions of especially future men. I think there's benevolent actors who see certain concepts in fiction like that, especially if the nature of a generation is known ahead of time by wise men and they know, okay, this is going to be totally captured by media. Well, if you're a benevolent actor, you have to get these concepts into fiction or they will just be discarded. And I think there are good things in that, like Defense Against the Dark Arts is a real thing. There's Satanists are real. They do rituals and stuff. I mean, that concept is, and that's a simple way of saying it, Defense Against the Dark Arts, right? Another thing is the idea of like hidden spaces. I'm not saying you can run through a brick wall or anything, but I definitely think there's things that are occulted from sight, right? That certain people can have access to. I mean, that's contrary to what the boomers were told. Okay. Like
conspiracy. I mean, conspiracy is another big one, that comes up in the later books. There's a bunch of themes I think are kind of important to touch on. It's just like, it feels so radioactive, and Charlie is kind of defending me here a little bit. There are themes in the Harry Potter series that I think tactfully kind of present things to a young readership. There are things that, a more mature person would think about, like the fact that there is, probably a conspiracy in the government for, these Death Eaters, this is literally happening in our government. There are weird freaks and stuff like that who do conspiracies. So, in Defense Against the Dark Arts, there's also some, spiritual warfare elements in there. It's not all bad. So, yeah, I don't know. There's some good points. It's just like the Disney adults thing is just like makes it really hard to broach it, kind of like fairly with an even keel, just because there's so many of it. There's millions of these Disney adult Harry Potter freaks.
Yeah, base comment from Vingle. That's very true. Jon Stewart seething.
Yeah. Oh my god. Oh, that was funny. Yeah, dude. Earliest red pill. The first red pill.
Indeed. One thing I'll say is I think the Harry Potter books are good. There's nothing wrong, I think, in children or even teenagers reading them. But I think that if you're a childless adult who's reading them and really into them, I think you need help. And and there's something I'm not going to forget is I remember in a previous job there was a couple of female co-workers who were again millennial women, and they were again really into Harry Potter. And I remember them sharing something once on Facebook where apparently in I can't remember where this is, but apparently there's a Harry Potter boot camp where you can go and be inducted into Hogwarts, and it's for these Harry Potter adults, and they wanted to go to it. And I'm just I didn't say anything publicly, but in my own brain I was just thinking, oh my god, stop, this is wrong. You're not a kid anymore.
This is worse. This is worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. It's somehow worse than the most depraved, example of sin in the Bible. That somehow is worse. Oh my god, that's so horrible. I'm crawling in my skin thinking about it.
You're crawling in your cringe.
Yeah, I'm crawling in my cringe thinking about that. That's horrible.
Yes,
adult day camps. That's another thing that is it's pretty much like a core millennial concept now, is that there are infantilizing adult day camps now, or work has become daycare. I don't know how many offices, tech offices, you guys have been in, but I'm in the trades. I do mechanical work, so on occasion I'll find myself working, on something. In a building that is downtown Nashville, and it's it's a tech office where they have a bunch of programmers, doodling up a bunch of useless bullshit for the most part, and there are so many toys in their office, right? Their workplace has become an adult daycare where there's Rubik's Cubes and little toy 3D printers and gauntlets, or that gauntlet, Infinity Gauntlet from, what is that cape shit film? I've already forgotten it.
Marvel.
Yeah, Marvel action figures, like little bobbleheads and stuff. It is infuriating. Like these are not real people. These are not ensouled human beings. Is what I'm trying to say.
No, and just quickly, yes, when Hunger said the video games were pretty good, I thought he was talking in general, but I think he's talking about Harry Potter games, and I agree with Charlemagne. They were pretty crap. They were a bit cursed.
No, I'm going to contest this. There was a really good one on Game Boy Advance.
Which one?
I don't remember because I don't know the title of it, but I had it and it was good.
I remember playing the Philosopher's Stone on PS1, and what's really frustrating with that one is to get the proper ending, you have to find all these chocolate frog cards in the game, and there's one I couldn't get because it was in this stupid Gringotts Vault race thing where you got to ride the minecart and jump around, and it's on some railing I couldn't get to, and it was because I couldn't get this one sodding card. When you beat Voldemort. Instead of just getting the final bit of the game where you have a Quidditch match, you just get this evil laughter, and then that's the main menu. I'm like, oh, thanks, game.
No. See, that's where it was at 3D.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, that's where they messed up. What they should have done is done a carbon copy of Final Fantasy, but with Harry Potter, because that's basically what the Game Boy one was. It was good.
Well, we got a striking admission from Hitman here, because he's admitting that he fully is not a Zoomer because he couldn't beat the Subway Surfers level.
Yeah.
I hate you, Mike.
The Goblet of Fire game was the last one I played, and I remember. I'm going to be honest. I like the Philosopher's Stone game except for that bloody ending. Cambridge's Secrets one I thought was okay, and the Prisoner of Azkaban one was okay. The Goblet of Fire game one I thought was really awful. I hated it. And that was the last one I played. And in terms of actually the films themselves, again, I think the books are better than the films. And the last of the films I actually watched was Order of the Phoenix. I didn't bother watching the last couple.
It didn't make sense later on because they were fully grown ass adults at the end of the. I didn't watch the last ones either.
Yeah, I don't know. There was something a bit cozy about the older ones that kind of started seeping away when you got to Prisoner of Azkaban, and then by the end it's just all dark.
Yeah. I remember whenever my parents told me that the original actor that played why can I not Dumbledore? Dumbledore.
Yes, Richard Harris was the original actor. Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever my parents told me he passed away, I was kind of gutted because definitely the Chamber of Secrets was a really that was a cozy movie for sure.
Okay, I don't know how much longer we want to go here, but I have a couple more things we could pop up, unless you've got a different.
No, sure. I will say, I think one problem with the Harry Potter films, I do think Michael Gambon was a downgrade from Richard Harris. I just think Michael Gambon just comes off a bit aloof, whereas I think Richard Harris did the Dumbledore role proper justice.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the original Dumbledore guy was good.
There's actually a really interesting anecdote about Richard Harris, is that his granddaughter was a fan of the books, and when she heard he'd been offered the part, she said, "If you don't play Dumbledore, I'll hate you." And it was all right, I'm going to play Dumbledore then. All right, we've got some other shit, so...
Hello there. Anyone who sees me has got a date with his maker. Say goodbye, fool.
There's something inside me that pulls beneath the surface, consuming, confusing. This lack of self-control I fear is never ending, controlling. I can't seem to find myself again. My walls are closing, swallowing in my skin. These wounds, they will not heal.
dude, we are never going to have any sort of mecha anime that hits nearly as hard as the OG Gundams. No, nothing will ever come close. Oh, dude, that's so good. Oh, let's go.
You could just feel the pain and nostalgia flow through you.
Oh, dude, I mainline that right in my veins, dude. I'm tying one off right now. Just go ahead and get the needle ready. I need more.
I just inject that shit into my veins. Yeah, I think you shared that on Twitter yesterday. What we just watched, it was one of you two. I can't remember which one.
That was from Meta Prime, I think. I don't see that this level of integration between different forms of media anymore.
No.
Like, when was the last time some sort of trailer for a video or a television? I mean, no one watches TV anymore, right? But when's the last time some sort of watched media integrated a really popular song that was in the zeitgeist? Or am I just not seeing that?
No, it's not possible anymore because of financialization. I actually wrote a Twitter thread about this. If any of you guys spent any time on Pandora, it was kind of like a battle for early music discovery between early YouTube, which had great music discovery, and Pandora, which also, I think for a time, was still really good. And I wrote a Twitter thread that was speculative, it was kind of like theory fiction about the financialization of kind of commercial art. Kind of like TV shows and these music hits are. And, I wrote in there that, Martin Shkreli had eventually figured out a way to make futures contracts on the blockchain live while that was connected to streaming services, replays, and stuff like that. And that more or less has happened. And so the financialization of music, because typically the storyboarding now is done kind of semi-independent of the music choice, really, because they're really just trying to tell a visual narrative and then have something that fits now, because there are people who their entire job is investing in catalogs of music for their so that they can make a return on their investment through streaming plays and stuff like that. I saw a video on Twitter not that long ago where this lady was talking about 90s hip hop as an investment product. And so it's become totally financially infeasible to clear the rights for a big track, something like that, something that actually ties into a certain time and place like that, and have it tightly integrated with the narrative of a promo, because really in the large span of things, it's more important now because of the money crunch to make sure that you have something at least halfway good enough to put on the slop, streaming services. So investing this much care, time, money, effort into promotional material, it's not feasible anymore.
No, certainly not. And yes, Charlemagne, I feel your nostalgia that the 2000s flow through you, gives you focus, makes you stronger. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. And got something else. Let's bring this up. Oh yes, good old Hugh. I tell you, Jimbo, those kooky third world ooga boogas might seem like the worst thing ever, but without all the liberal cuckaducks, none of them would ever be here in the first place. Always hug a trailer before an enemy, Jim Jam.
So true. So true.
Wise words from Hugh. Wise words from Hugh.
Does anybody remember the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour?
No, I remember quite vividly the Jimmy Neutron movie, but the show I remember very little of.
Mm-hmm. Well, the reason I brought it up is obviously that's another millennial thing. You had cartoon crossovers, so you get Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. There was a lot of the Disney cartoons did a crossover. I remember the Aladdin and Hercules had one, and
I think Ed, Ed and Eddie had one of those, but I forget who it was with.
Wow, did they? Wow. Good God, that was a long time ago, Ed and Eddie. fun, but also pretty cursed if you think about when that came out. So
Wait, didn't they have a Futurama and Simpsons crossover? Or who did Futurama crossover with? Because this all sounds very familiar, but I can't remember any of it. All this crossover content, but it sounds familiar. I think Futurama did one, but I can't remember for the life of me.
yeah, I sadly don't know what that would have been with, but interesting to hear what he's talking about the idea of the third world ooga boogas, because that's another thing. Regarding all this 2000s and 90s culture, in the way the millennials were the last generation where it was we were overwhelmingly white, and all boys or all girls had the same sort of watch the same films, watch the same TV shows, played the same games, and had a shared experience. With a lot of these foreigners who've come in, their own experience of childhood is probably going to be very different for the Zoomers and later generations if the present trends continue. So in a way, we millennials were probably the last to have like a shared cultural experience.
Yeah, someone played that clip of high school in, what was it? It was like 2001 or something like that. That clip that goes around every once in a while of someone brought a VHS like handheld camcorder to school and recorded just like dudes being bros and hanging out in the hallways. That's school. That clip goes around every once in a while. It's like, yeah, dude, our country used to like have public schools that could function because there wasn't like ethnic violence every single day. Like it happened, my old high school, it's like that they were, should I say that? I'm going to say it anyway. They were in the middle of a controversy because there was, I don't know if they actually did it. I think it was brought up in some sort of like PT or parent teacher conference or something. Word got out that they were going to put a litter box in one of the bathrooms for a furry kid. And then it's like half the school is also like, ethnically a minority. And so like there have been parents that have been kicked out of the school because they still had their pistol tucked in their waistband whenever they came to pick up their kid and stuff like that. Like it just turned into a nightmare. Whereas like my experience of high school was, high school used to be like kind of cool and chill as shit, playing hockey team and, slacking off for the first 2 years and then actually buckling down and trying to get good grades the second 2 years. It was kind of a vibe. Oh, Simpsons and Family Guy did a crossover. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe Futurama didn't do a crossover.
And apparently Frozen had one as well, which I wasn't aware of.
Huh.
Lord Charles Thomas, I think perhaps one of the few shared cultural experiences that was formative for the Zoomers is probably 2016 in the US election.
No, 100%. He's 100% right on that. That's probably the closest thing to a shared cultural moment that we've had since a while.
Since since like 9/11. I mean, really.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Trump getting elected was 9/11 for Zoomers. I mean, it really was for some of them. So, I mean,
what about J6? Or wait, that's what the regime wants. They want that to be the 9/11 for Zoomers.
No, I don't think J6 has that same shared cultural impact. Just because, like the kids started shutting out a little bit already. So there's still like it's more. I don't know. It's more divisive among the Zoomers, whereas like Trump getting elected, I think was universally like viewed with confusion. Like from the at least that's my perception. Kind of like observing my younger brother and his friends is it was kind of viewed with like confusion. It's kind of like a auspicious sign or something like that. It was weird for them. J6 was 9/11 for boomers. Charlemagne, oh my god, that's so true. Dude, I wish StreamYards would integrate like the pop-up emoji feature like Twitter Spaces does, because dude, I would be hitting the fire emoji so many times right now.
Oh, I don't know. But perhaps we should do this again, but on like a Twitter space or something.
Yeah, I'm down.
Right. I've got some other stuff. Everyone wants to be a gangster until it comes time to do the gangster shit.
Yep. Another.
So-
That's a format that became permanent. I mean, I still see this format to this day.
Yeah, that's the interesting part of this. So this is the War on Terror, right? Which and most millennial memes started really around like 2010, and it was this format. And now somehow this is like all boomers do. Like this is boomer now.
Speaking of the War on Terror,
الولايات المتحدة والمدنيين فإننا نقترب كثيرا من هذه النهاية. شكرا زيرو.
Look at those reflexes, man.
Man, I mean, that's really masterful. I mean, a white boy can't dodge a fade like that anymore. We don't. I don't know.
No, lost art.
Yeah, that's a lost art.
Indeed. Yeah. Quick reflexes, Bush. Well, you know, he's a Texan. He must have, you know.
Hey, you know this. You could actually play that into, you know, it's a conspiracy theory that's not a conspiracy theory. Is that, you know, that Bush, little Bush, was playing a character live on TV with putting on this kind of bumpkin-esque kind of like you know, homely person. You know, like it's pitched a lot of times as a conspiracy theory, but we all know it's true. And you could actually use this as evidence in your kind of like schizo chart with the red lines or red yarn going between things, because reflex time is coincident with IQ. So if you have good reflexes, you're smart. So, you know, he was actually like a Machiavellian, you know, like evil genius, you know, which he kind of was.
So aren't the Bushes from like Connecticut or something?
Yes, you're
Yeah,
right.
they're from up north.
Yeah, they're from there originally, and then they moved to Texas. So, you call that a carpetbagger, don't you? If I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Oh.
I hate carpetbaggers so much. See, and it's now like such a permanent and endemic problem. You know, it's like, yeah, I wonder what the carpetbagging rate is for Congress right now. I bet it's 20%. I bet 20% of Congress are carpetbaggers.
Yeah, well, you no longer have people like John McCain, because he was a carpetbagger as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Got something else? Commercial.
Freedom is a wheel in your soul. It's Heelys, and it's all about fun. So cruise around with your friends, or simply show off and start new trends. It's Heelys. Walk, roll, or create the next move. Live on the edge. It's all about you. So get out and get on a roll. Be yourself and free your soul. Go to Heelys.com.
Yeah, never got into Heelys, did any of you?
I
no.
wanted them, and my dad said, "That's gay. You're not getting that." Basically,
Wise, very wise man.
Based.
So, no, my little brother, he got a pair of Heelys, but I was already into like extreme sports and stuff. So I already had like you know, a BMX bike, skateboard, and I had you know, it was called aggressive inline. Whenever I was a kid, the skates that actually have the grooves and pockets and the really wide base, so you can do grinds with them. So like I was, you know, I played hockey, so I kind of like naturally gravitated to. Never really rode the BMX bike, and ended up just doing like aggressive inline and skateboarding when I was a kid. So I never got into the Heelys thing at all. I would just put on my skates.
Yeah, because that's one thing is I never got into skateboarding, but I know Melon, you mentioned it, and I think it's fair to say I think millennials still for like the last generation who really got into skateboarding, and we talked about games, but my only experiences, I remember like loads of games had like random like skateboarding like activities in them. Like I remember the second and third Spyro the Dragon game had like a skateboarding map where you would like go and try and do all these moves. And then I also remember there was also all the Tony Hawk stuff, and then I also remember there was a Simpsons like skateboarding game as well, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, pre-2001, that was like what would you call it, Mike? Like extreme culture. Everything was extreme, and
Yeah.
I don't
No.
even know what to call it, but
Like we had, like this was the beginning of like digital video on demand as well. So, like in the South here, I don't know if it was the same everywhere, but in the post TiVo moment when people started getting real digital cable, we started getting things from Comcast, like their video on demand service. And they would have it was almost like an early like high like a network produced YouTube, almost like strangely enough, like there was one channel, I guess you could call it, where you could get like kind of like X Games, like rally and circuit and like racing and all that sort of stuff. And then there was also like Havoc TV, which was another like video on demand, like one of these weird channel service things where you could see like skateboarding and kind of like edits and that sort of thing. So yeah, there was definitely a huge thing, especially with like apparel too. Like Fox Racing became like a huge apparel brand during this time, as well as like DC. So I still wear DC shoes to this day because they're comfortable. I can find them in stores with Double E because I've got ski feet and stuff like that. And they're comfortable because they can take an impact and they're kind of light. Anyway, but we got apparel reaching over like real hard. Like there was tons of guys that went to school with like Fox motorcycle racing jackets and stuff like that, or racing jerseys.
Yeah, because I'm not the only one who has encountered the skateboarding segment into inspire the Dragon games. It never played Reignited. I was tempted, and I thought, again, I don't want to go diving too deeply into the past. I need to leave childish things behind. Well, we've gone over. Oh, sorry, carry on.
no, just that's probably what every millennial needs drilled into their head.
Well, we've been going for just over 2 hours. Is there any final things you want to say before we wrap up?
Doing some back of the math calculation. It's about 20 to 30% is even the historical baseline of members of Congress elected in a state that they are not born in, but that would be the softest definition of a carpetbagger. The strictest definition of a carpetbagger would mean moving just to run in the race and get elected would be, at the highest estimate, 2.8%. So there we go. Sorry, I had to do a little bit of research inside because I got curious. Anyway, on millennial culture, I don't know. It needs to go into the waste bin of history, maybe. I don't know. There's some elements that are probably salvageable in some sort of like after like a great reclamation and discarding of the dross. There's some cool things in there, but I really hate to stand here and be like, let me self-efface myself. It was all a mistake. There's some good elements, and there's some things I think maybe had a slight positive influence. It's just such a shame that most of it was pretty much subversive and probably articulated by people who wanted to manipulate younger people. I really do believe that there was some amount of predictive programming in order to create better consumers as part of the entirety of the media environment, which is what they were banking on everyone kind of like pinning their ego and their identity to. And so a lot of it was really bad and catastrophic for the human race as a whole, and America and the West in specific.
And Richard Phillips, I'm assuming you're a Zoom. I get the impressions the millennials are way more nostalgic than my generation.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say there's nostalgia is all over, because again, ultimately, we have this concept that things used to work and then they stopped working, and we want anything that reminds us of the time when things were working, and that's it, I think.
Well, this is actually a lot of ways Zoomers are worse off in terms of material and like intact families and so forth. But the big advantage they have is that they did not grow up at most of them did not grow up in a time when it was like they're sort of more checked out than we are. Like we have a concept of like, oh, there was a way things are supposed to work and we need to go back to it if we're nostalgic, right? But Zoomers were born into when shit was already falling apart for the most part. I mean, am I out of line on that? Or
no, that's my perception as well.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, my younger brother and his peers definitely have a much larger like jaded streak in their.
That's
in
a
their
good
kind of
thing. Like they're not bought into this fake shit. Like that's good, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I'd say my younger brother's an older Zoomer, and I'd say he's quite well adjusted because he does a lot of sports. He plays a lot of darts, football, cricket, and yeah. So I'd say he's not quite as nihilistic and has some constructive activities. So that's a good thing. Right. Well, thank you both for coming on. This was a great discussion, and love to talk to you again at some point. Is there anything you two would like to share before we close up?
Yeah, so, you know, I run an apparel brand, that's over there at pureobject.net. Go pick up a t-shirt or a hat. You know, more designs are coming soon. Otherwise, you know, tune in to, every Wednesday night, when, me and my good friend Capitalissimo, host a show called Drive Time Movie Night, where we get together with a guest from broadly our kind of like Twitter scene, and we watch a bad movie and do color commentary and comedy and just have a giggle. And that's good fun. This week, tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we are going to be having on Pete Quinones, and we are going to be watching Society 1989. So that's going to be freaking awesome. Super excited about the show tomorrow. So you can catch that at 7 p.m. Eastern on Twitter and on Rumble.
Excellent. Melon?
I don't have anything to shill. We might have to do something in the future because there's a lot of stuff we didn't cover. American Psycho, that was a Millennial thing, right? Or am I crazy?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think that had a fairly broad impact, I think, but it is like a Millennial kind of like core thing. So yeah, we didn't hit everything. And Scott Pilgrim, another one.
And like Tumblr and Gamergate and smartphones ruining the internet and how cameras used to be film cameras and Polaroids and the rise of the dog mom. That's another one. I don't know. We'll have to talk in the future.
No. In terms of this channel, well, if people have been paying attention and not living under a rock, you know, there's a brewing conflict with Iran. One of the main things I'm working on this channel is a series on modern Iran with a good friend Hunger the Dye Merchant, who you've seen in the chat. The next stream we hope to do the last weekend of this month, so that should be the Saturday the 28th. We'll be talking about the Zands dynasty and the rise of the Qajars in the late 18th century. And also, I do have a planned guest stream on Iron Duke's channel next Wednesday, where we'll be talking about the Aden emergency, which is Britain's withdrawal from the Red Sea and Yemen. So if you're interested in that, to give that a watch as well. And I'm just going to make sure we've not had any super chats on Entropy. We haven't. Okay. Well, other than that, thank you so much for watching, everybody, and good night. See you around.
See ya. Thanks for having me on.
See ya.